Welcome, everyone, to Big Blue Book Club. We are in week 3 of this session, which is um, Praise Song for the Kitchen Ghosts. And I have had the opportunity to be out and about in the state this week. And I've heard from many of you who have had rave reviews about this book. And those of you who have been participating in watch parties have raved about the opportunities to enjoy some of the recipes that you found in the books. So while Chef T is getting settled, if you want to unmute and tell us your favorite recipes that you've tasted while you have been enjoying book club, we would love to hear from you. Or you can type it in the chat if you want to do that as well, if anyone has had the opportunity to taste. Everybody's going to be quiet now. All right, I see Greenup County is on there. Laura, do you want to tell us what you all have been tasting? Because I know you have been enjoying great food.
Can you hear me, Mindy?
Yes, we can.
Today we are sampling the Indian Creek chili on this very cold and blustery day.
What a perfect thing to enjoy.
Yes. So what does my group think about the chili? I'm getting lots of delicious.
Yay, yay, yay. And I heard great great reviews about what you all ate last week.
Yes, last week we had the gingerbread and sauce, and it was wonderful and delicious and moist, and we loved it. And the first week we tried the hot milk cake and the wild berry lemonade.
Yum, yum, yum. Okay, good. Good, good. Oh, looks like McCracken County has had the hamburger soup. Yay. Oh, so everybody's ready to roll. So, Chef T, are you ready to jump in?
Ready to go.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing Greenup County. And those of you, oh, it looks like, oh, okay, you're typing that in too. Okay, well, good. We'll get started. Chef T, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take off with session number 3.
Okay, session number 3. And I called this, I'm going to put the Menti code up here if you want to sign in on your phone or a tablet. If you don't have a secondary piece of technology to sign in on, you can just put your responses in the chat and Mindy will take a look at those and pass them on. But here's the QR code if you want to scan it, or you can just go to www.menti.com and enter this code. And if you go ahead and just pull Menti up, the code is going to be on every single page. So you don't have to worry so much about getting that in real quick because that usually makes you switch numbers and stuff. So take your time, but go on to Menti or scan this code and get into that app or that website.
And that's up at the top of the screen, always up at the top of the screen.
All right. I'm getting lots of thumbs up. So I'm going to go on to the next slide. So as Mindy said, I hope you are enjoying going through Praisesong as much as I am. I really have seen reading it in depth like this to prepare has helped me to see a lot of themes that I haven't before. So it's been wonderful for me to revisit. And just we've been over these book club rules, but for anybody who's joining us for the first time, please come ready to share. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from what you think. I have lots of thoughts about this, but I want to hear. This is a group learning experience. It should be a dialogue, not a monologue. So I want your feedback. We are going to value everyone's opinion and allow space for everyone to, I think Menti's great about allowing everyone to put their thoughts in, but if you want to unmute or if you want to go in the chat, just Please do, and keep what is said confidential today. Sometimes when we talk about some memories, they're not always pleasant. And they may be some things we don't want shared outside of this group. So let's keep everything confidential. And don't criticize each other's comments. You can also always allow counter opinions or say, I see it differently, but let's respect everyone's comments. And again, Mindy will be watching for the chat for different comments and questions and summarizing that to pass along. Today, I hope we won't go over like we did last time because we only have 3 chapters to read. We've got The Incredible Indelible Egg, Searching for the Ancestral Gardens, and Soul Food of the Mountains. And I really roped myself in on the quotes today. But I want to know if there's a brief quote that stood out to you. So if you're in Menti, and that code is at the top, is there something? I mark pages with tabs, flags. So when I see a quote that I want to come back to, some people underline or will dog ear a page. If there's something that really stood out to you from these chapters, I'm going to start off with one that really resonated with me. But is there a brief quote that stood out to you? If so, this is an open-ended question. If you just want to put a few words to jog your memory about which one. And again, that's menti.com. That is at the top of the page as well, or you can put it in the chat. Oh yes, I love this. Her house dress shook like she'd caught the Holy Ghost when she's mixing, right? And everything's kind of moving around. Oh, we each hold up the past like it's a gift, and it is. This deeply, yep, that's one that I've pulled out for today from page 182. Thank you, thank you. Yep, beans, soup, chicken and dumplings, soul food of the mountains. Food that's cooked with love and with care and with passion. All righty. Well, you can keep entering these. We'll get all of them. Menti saves all of this. Preparing food for the people I love was the full embodiment of love, right? Preparing food's not easy. I think people who don't cook don't understand. We always marvel in my family about how my grandmother, even in advanced age, was able to make these humongous meals for the whole extended family because it wears me out. And so when you do it as a show of love. Heartache strikes and I invite it in, right? Because you know where that heartache comes from. It comes from that deep embodiment of love. Right, well, I'm going to let you can continue to stay on that slide if you want and continue to enter. Like I said, we'll be able to go back and look at those responses. And once again, if you have not done so before, here is the QR code for the Big Blue Book Club on Facebook. You can engage there. Mindy puts updates and highlights in there as well as what's coming next. And you can engage with other people around the writings. You can take what we're talking about today a little further in Facebook. So we'll start with this chapter, which I thought was a lot different from some of the others, but I pulled these together and I called this section, last week was gathering at the table, and this week I call it feeding into the future, because I feel like in these chapters, Crystal's got one foot in the past and one foot in the present and even in the future when she's doing around growing and cooking food. So we're going to go back into her past just a little bit with the incredible indelible egg. And I just had to put this portrait of her when she was a little girl. I think of her at this age when she tells this story. And I think it's an incredible story about food origins and food identities and what we talk about. We've talked a lot about what we embrace and what we love and what comforts us, but this is the opposite experience with food. How many eggs? I don't remember, but in my child's mind, they are stacked to the ceiling. Whatever magic I thought the white lady had, and however I thought I could gain access to it by defying my grandmother, disappeared into the clean smell of the white lady's kitchen. I was quiet for the rest of the day. My grandmother said nothing. The white lady washed the dishes, even though my grandmother offered to wash them. I played in the yard. My heart cracked open from my own betrayal. I love how Crystal weaves things through. I love I don't know if she meant this as a pun or a play on words, but my heart cracked open like an egg. And how many of us have, when we were kids, thought we knew better, thought we were going to get away with something and betrayed ourselves. I can remember those moments. And there's no one to blame. And that sometimes is the hardest thing is to know that it was you yourself who brought this upon your head. And so I have deep empathy for little Crystal in this moment that she thought she was going to get something special or get away with something. And it really was something that defeated her and something that has influenced her whole life now. She still, as an adult, is not very fond of just plain old eggs. So what about you? We've talked about so many things we love about food, but what is a bad food experience you have had? And you can put this into Menti or you can put this into the chat. I had a bad experience. I got ill, and I don't think it was related to what I ate, but I got ill after having mushrooms, hominy and green peas. Oh my, cooked carrot. Yeah. Oh, cheese. Oh no. All of these things. Yeah, a lot of the candies that, yeah, especially if you overdo it. Mac and cheese. Oh no. Or you don't chew that. Yeah, that's good advice. You had to learn it the hard way though. Limas, pintos, a tuna melt. Oh, trying to eat yeah. Some of these things that are kind of difficult. Oh, so your sunflower seeds were a little rancid, I think we're saying. Raw, hot rolled. Oh no. Oh, I didn't mean to. Whoops. Well, I'm sorting them. I meant to just go down. Bad clams. Okay. Here are the new responses. Oh, having to pluck a chicken. I can understand. Yeah, I think there are some people who, when they have been through the harvesting process, have difficulty eating that. Oh, finding a hair. Yes. Beans still can't stand the texture. Liver and onions and cucumbers. I knew someone who was a flavor scientist and they had worked on a cucumber flavor so long they can't even do pickles. Like they just can't do cucumbers at all. All right. So yeah, a lot of us have either we got ill or we had too much, we overdid it, or it's a texture and smell thing. We have some of those difficult memories with food as well. But of course, Crystal is going to go on to talk about even chicken production and what a boon it can be for those who are raising and growing their own food. And she says on pages 58, 59, our foremothers raised chickens for many generations. Black Appalachians who raised fowl paired with a garden knew their families would be fed in summer and winter. Though it is believed that domesticated chickens originated in Southeast Asia, West Africans have been raising fowl for protein and religious customs since the early Middle Ages. Enslaved Africans brought their skill and deep knowledge of raising poultry and their reverence for the gospel bird with them to America. And these descendants perfected the techniques of what would become American fried chicken that is now popular all over the world. How many of you have traveled? And when you say that you're from Kentucky, the first thing some people will say is Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? So this dish that we consider as something that we grew up with, and maybe something that was relatively new, maybe from the 20th century or late 19th, is something that is very ancient and has been passed down through many kinds of different food ways and food cultures. And brought to our country and perfected over and over again by lots of different cooks, so that it is now that comfort food and that favorite that many Southerners and Appalachians and the people who have tried it and have taken it back to their regions or their countries. So it's really fascinating to look at or at least try to theorize where some of our favorite dishes came from. If you ever have the time, it's really fascinating to look into the background of macaroni and cheese. I had a class do that one time, and it's really fascinating and a little obscure. We don't quite know. So it's really fascinating to look into our food ways. So I am fascinated too by there's a whole little like subculture around dressed or deviled eggs. To the point that I don't know of a potluck I've been to that didn't have dressed or deviled eggs, and that we have a dish specifically for this cuisine, this recipe, in order to take it to places. I love that fact. So Crystal talks about it too, that even though she disdains the egg and can't really eat them by themselves, that although eggs in their most pure state repulse me, I use up to 3 dozen eggs when I cook for the holidays. Dressed eggs are among the first thing to go from any holiday spread. Dressed eggs, also called deviled eggs, are only difficult because they are time consuming. The boiling, the cracking, the peeling, especially the peeling, trying to slice through the cooked eggs without mangling the shape, or smearing yolk all over the place. That's the thorn in my side. Though I've seen fancy deviled eggs piped out of a pastry bag like soft serve ice cream with all sorts of blasphemy. Bacon, jalapeno, shallots, roasted peppers, crab. The simple old-fashioned deviled egg is the best. Now, I don't know if any of you have made Crystal's recipe for deviled eggs, but she is a purist. It is the just most basic. It's like my grandma used to make them. It's like most of the ladies at my church used to bring to our meals, fellowship meals. It's just mayo, mustard, a little pickle relish, maybe some salt, and then paprika on top, and that is it. And they're wonderful, and they're nostalgic. I can be charged with putting all sorts of blasphemy on top of deviled eggs. I have, if you've come to anything that I've made the dressed eggs or deviled eggs for, they're usually topped with a lot of things, from smoked trout to capers to all of the things that Crystal has lit. So I am a sinner when it comes to putting different things on my eggs. So I have a question for you too. So if you're wondering about where deviled eggs comes from, I'm going to ask you this while I say this. So what do you say? Do you say deviled? Do you say dressed? Or do you have another term for these eggs? Deviled, I was told in culinary school that deviled just meant adding mustard, but it's actually a little bit more involved than that. Deviled eggs are called deviled because they have lots of seasoning. Some may be spicy. It doesn't necessarily mean spices, but you do add mustard and you add a lot of ingredients that enrich the taste. And so this would be something that you splurge on. And the idea of this being deviled and moralizing it a bit does come from more of a time when we used a liturgical calendar and had certain feast and fast days. So if it's something very rich, you gave it up for fasting times. And so it was kind of seen as an indulgence and not being, not adhering to the conscripts of those fasting times. If you had something really enriched and flavorful, you were supposed to be sacrificing at that time. So that's where this term deviled comes from. And I know some people might have had some, but hey, deviled is winning right now. Some people avoid that. They say dressed. And the other, I'm curious about the other, I've seen angeled eggs. You can put in the chat, what are your other terms for dressed or deviled eggs? You folks who use something else stuffed eggs, maybe. That would be really interesting. All right, I'm going to go down to the next slide. Doesn't use mayo, uses butter and vinegar. Oh, that would be really rich too. Angel eggs. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen angel eggs. Salad eggs. Oh, that's a good term. Yeah, because you put what some people call salad dressing instead of mayo in there. Next, we'll move on to searching for the ancestral garden. So this is a picture from, I've talked about Crystal did that demo for the New York Times, and this is from their photographer, Andrew Sensi. So it appeared in the article that featured Crystal in that. So it's a combination of her grandmother, Christine, and her teenage recipe box and her grandmother's dress all in one photo. So I love that. I wanted to bring that here because this is where she's starting to connect past and present. On page 89, she says, she's talking about the quarantine and the ravages of COVID-19 and how many people we were losing at the time and the difficulty of being separated from those that we love for so long. She says, out in the world, there is so much death. Inside, the tragedy makes us examine the past. I am always reflecting on family. I am thinking of how my mother, my grandparents might have coped with quarantine. My grandmother was the queen of worry and cook, a method that I have inherited. My mom had tales of, she didn't live through the 1917, 1918 influenza outbreak in this country, but my grandmother did. And she said that they told tales of isolating and quarantining and just making do with what you had in the house instead of trying to get out at that time. And I'm sure they have resources and some resilience that we had to develop during the quarantine and separation and worry about people. And cooking for people is how we show care, and it's how we can occupy ourselves when we are concerned and worried about people that we love. Page 91, she talks about what her daughters are doing during the quarantine. They plant sunflowers, peppers, garlic, carrots, cilantro, basil, tomatoes. They have no idea what they're doing, but they have learned so much from watching YouTube videos. I am amazed. I am reminded of my grandparents' gardens. How many of you have that person who you think, they didn't need to be taught how to garden or cook, but they just sort of seem to have a natural, uncanny ability to do it, even without too much instruction or with, looking up a video. I'm not a good grower. I have a few plants that I've managed to keep alive, moving them in and out on my porch and back into my office. And I'm pretty amazed at that because I've never been a good gardener by myself. So I am envious of those who can, but one thing I do, and one thing that I do, cooking, the reason I went into it is because it helps me release steam. It kind of makes me a little meditative. And Glenda is saying her worry and cook phase has been modernized. My former daughter-in-law stress bakes. Stress is the modern word over worry, I think. Yes. So we are stressed out. We are spread thin. We need to let off steam. We have all different sorts of phrases for when we get a little burnt out, when life is just a little too much. Grandfather and father-in-law were the most gifted gardeners. I always said that my grandmother, she had like 24 African violets that she kept alive for as long as we were in the same plane together. And they're so finicky. I just always was amazed at her green thumb, as we like to say. But I love that how she in reflecting on what she's going through here, this unprecedented time that we kept talking about, that she's reflecting into the past and she's looking forward to the future. Did you start a new hobby or skill during quarantine? Or Kelly, in May, she's talking about Christmas holidays getting delayed by winter colds or flu. There was a winter storm one year that delayed our extended family gathering till January. We couldn't get out on the roads. You baked more cookies as everything got pushed back. So were you able to have just a full-on cookie exchange? Oh, you met Susan Miller. Oh, wonderful. That's excellent. Hiking more, playing the guitar, tatting. Oh, that's wonderful. Refurbished a 60s camper. That's amazing. Yes. It was a good time to perfect your biscuit, right? Our former executive director made a now famous quote about, everything may be burning down around us, but by goodness, we're going to have biscuits. That's what she did over quarantine, when she worked on her biscuits. Started raising ducks. Oh, precious. Yes, we have maybe not so constructive day drinking. It's all kinds of things you can get good at, right? When you have more time. Remodeling, trying more new recipes, spent more time outdoors, quilting and reading more. All those, planted all types of lettuce, cooking from scratch, more Zoom meetings. I feel a little sane. Yeah, Zoom. Yeah. Boating, making sourdough. I tried some sourdough too. I made my own starter. That's the first time I've ever done that. I always was given yoga. Yes, got into the yoga. Yoga with Adrian, that was my favorite one. Family Zoom get-togethers, yeah. Redid your floors. So we did lots of things to kind of nesting, right? Because we were spending a lot of time in our nests. We did a lot more things around our nests, or to get some kind of form of exercise, since we couldn't do it in our normal places. I call this page Closer to the Ancestors. On page 93, Crystal says, she's talking about the little raised garden that she had in the back of her house. While I'm tending my little garden, I think about the land, the toil, and labor when my ancestors helped to clear the rough terrain of the region to make way for crops that would provide wealth to their enslavers. There's always this thread to the past and what her ancestors experienced and where they came from. And I think we all have those kind of stories when we look way back. Even if you don't use, say, ancestry.com or go visit cemeteries, you have those family tales about people who came before and what they had to go through, what many of our ancestors had to go through when they came to this country. And especially tales that I think of Appalachia talk about. I mean, that a lot of people were pushed inward from the coasts. And in order to have any kind of freedom of their own, that's why a person would go to live in rough and isolated terrain. But also, you look at Appalachia being one of the most biodiverse areas of the country, east of the Mississippi, because of those mountains, because the glaciers didn't remove everything like they did in a lot of other places in our country. So it's this wonderful combination of difficulty and absolute abundance in another way. And I think Crystal wonderfully walks that balance beam in between looking in the past and looking forward to the future. Just a couple pages later, she's thinking about Susan Miller's tomatoes, her ox hearts. And then she pulls that back to her ancestors and then talking about carrying on the traditions. She says, I think of ox hearts. I think of the animals on our farm. I think of cow hearts, of horse hearts, of pig hearts. I think of how our grandparents were the heart of our family and how each of us is still carrying on their traditions in large and small ways, even after all these decades. How old do you think some of your traditions are? How many generations do those biscuits go back? I have some things of my grandparents that are probably turn of the 20th century. I have an apron made out of a flour sack that had a little print on it once the manufacturers realized people were using the cloth for baby clothes and aprons and dish towels. I have my grandmother's butter pat that she used to pat the butter and get the rest of the way out of it after she churned it. How far back do some of these traditions go? Some of them we keep alive, and some of them are just set on a shelf or hung on the wall as reminders of what they used to do. But I love how Crystal sort of has a thread going in both ways. You have your grandmother's set of tea glasses and a washboard, right? How many things did she scrub up and down that washboard, right? So we have all of these things. We have the pieces that built us in a way, and this is so much a part of our identity. Food is always such a part of our identity. And growing food being in your blood. You have the butter churn. We have the milk pails and cans, right? We have old lanterns and the things that people used every day that we have gotten away from. Oh, a kraut cutter. I love putting kraut down. So that would be a very precious gift that I'd probably still use if I had one. That's amazing. So Crystal talks about growing being in your blood, or at least the if not growing like me, at least an appreciation of the people who grow it. So she has two quotes from pages 95 and 96. She says, today, Black farmers make up less than 2% of the millions of farmers in the United States. Here in Kentucky, there are only 600 Black farmers among more than 75,000. I'm grateful that my cousins Susie and George Allen are among them, holding on to the tradition that our forebears began. And like you said, you let Susie and George Allen grow yours. I let lots of different farmers grow mine as well. But I do appreciate the hard labor that went into it. I was involved in enough of that that I do appreciate the hard work that goes into raising food and how hard it is just to be a farmer today, period. And I appreciate the small and mid-sized farmers who still keep on pressing forward and trying to make that dream come true. They are upholding our food system as much as the really big commercial farms do. So I really appreciate that. I order vegetables from George Allen and Susie for several weeks during the summer. This is again during quarantine. So Crystal's pulling it forward into what was the present at the time she wrote this. For several weeks during the summer. It feels good to wash the dirt off the beets, to have less packaging and waste. I feel closer to where I come from when I do this. I cook, I remember, I wash, slice. We still have to order some groceries, but the fresh vegetables give me a feeling of being more connected with my ancestry. It feels right to smell the dirt on the food that we eat. I do love that. I mean, most of the stuff I get is pretty well washed, but you know, things like root vegetables, they still need a good scrub. And I actually love that process. Or greens. I love taking apart lettuces or dark leafy greens and running a big full sink of cool water and that rhythm of swirling them around so that all the grit comes out. I actually enjoy that part of cooking. Some people look at it as drudgery, but it makes me feel like I'm back on my grandparents' farm and helping to process some of the stuff that they've grown. Whenever I smell tomatoes, I think of the days being cooked. I think of the days that we canned tomatoes all day. Oh, Bar Farm. I absolutely love Bar Farm, Raylene. Ray, I've gotten to been fortunate to see Ray at several events recently, and she's an absolute sweetheart. So I really want to go visit their farm. So I'm envious of you. So yeah, you could join a CSA, or if you're near campus or on campus, you could always go out to South Farm or here on campus to their farm stand and get that local stuff. Can anybody tell me what this picture on this page is showing? I think we've read this part. Or if you've read ahead, I'm pretty sure we've read about this, this very special treasure here. But if you'll stick that in the chat, well, I'd like to see if anybody can tell me what that picture is of. Pretty sure it's in the first week. So just so you can agree me, her grandmother's last jar. Yes, that is it. Thank you, Shauna. It was her that she hangs on to. She won't open. Because it was the last jar that she has of what her grandmother cans. So I think that's really sweet. There it is. Everybody's chiming in. So I want to talk about eating with the seasons and eating local and helping to support those small and mid-sized farmers by eating local, because it really is important for our economy in Kentucky, our food system, and sometimes just eating good stuff. Like I dread getting an apple from the grocery store anymore because I've been spoiled and I've had too many really good orchard apples. So let me tell you, Evans Orchard has a really it's a fun name. It's called Ludacrisp, and it's absolutely delicious. It's a yellow skinned one. So you can always turn to, this is the Kentucky Department of Agriculture's seasonal produce guide. There are lots of like Visit Lex has a seasonal produce guide. Lots of places have them, and it's good to know, because sometimes when the farmers market opens, we're there and we're like, oh, I'm gonna get my corn and tomatoes, and they're just not there yet, or if they're there, they may not have come from Kentucky. So I just love to talk about just briefly about seasonal eating and how good it is for us and how good it tastes and how good it feels to support those local farmers. I thought that kind of tied in a little bit with all that Crystal's talking about with these home gardens. So when I was thinking about that, what is your favorite homegrown vegetable? And while you're inputting that, I have a feeling we're going to have several of the same. Right there, tomatoes, first answer. I did that with my grandmother's last jar of canned pork tenderloin. Oh, you did finally eat it. There we go. Afraid it would go back. Yeah. You don't want to waste it, right? But I see also putting it up on their shelf as well. Green beans, corn and tomatoes. Yep, corn on the cob. Oh, beets. We have a beet lover. Wonderful. Always love finding my fellow beet lovers because we're few and far between. Asparagus, yes. I hate that asparagus just has a little 3-week window in Kentucky. I absolutely love it. Spinach. Crookneck. No straight for you. Okra's one of my favorites too. High five to an okra fan, because again, okra, beets, those are some very polarizing vegetables. Tomatoes and sweet corn, green beans and kale, wonderful. Sweet potatoes, well, you kale and sweet potato and fall squash lovers are happy right now, aren't you? This is one of my favorite times. Yeah. We just had some sorghum glazed sweet potatoes for our first Friday on Friday. They were absolutely delicious. We were talking about sorghum last week, so we kind of combined it all. All right. Yes, lots of that. So a lot of these are that height of the growing season. Also, you can vote on your favorite. If you want to upvote any of your favorites that are in Minty, you can click on them on your device that you've got Minty open on. And if you didn't put it in, you're like, oh, wish I did. You can actually just hit that answer and you can vote for one. Thank you for the emoji. So we've got the that would be fun. Don't you wish that they had emojis for all our favorite foods? Yeah. So corn. All right. We've got some votes. I'll give people a couple more minutes to vote. See if we got a winner. Bell peppers, yeah. I always love bell peppers, and I'm glad that we're doing a lot more season extension trying to put it all together in Kentucky so that we can have some of these things a little bit longer. Like we can have tomatoes up through October. And in fact, I did get just a few tiny green tomatoes at the very beginning of this month, which is amazing to me when I grew up with traditional farming. All right, I'm going to finish our voting. Sweet corn, that's our winner for today. All right, excellent. So lastly, we're going to move through to soul food of the mountains. And I love how she has applied this meaning to this kind of cooking. That I think we get something in a particular picture in our head when we think of soul food, but really I think soul food or soulful food is something that is cooked from the soul. Like you feel it. You are putting your emotion and your love and your care into the food. You are pouring your soul into the cooking because of how you feel about the people you're cooking for. And I challenge people because a lot of people will do that for other people, but they don't do it for themselves. And I've been challenging some of my classes of, why do you cook comfort food just for other people? Or why do you take care and do the special dishes just for other people? Every once in a while, we all deserve that for ourselves. So I encourage you in the future to set aside some time as self-care. Instead of maybe a bubble bath, maybe you fix something really nice for you in a caring and loving way, in a soulful way. So one pot meals. And I love one pot meals, especially cooking for one. And I can meal prep just in one pot. It's great. On page 178, Crystal has a couple of quotes. So she, again, looks to the past. These communal meals around one large pot were a form of solidarity, healing, survival, and resistance. What went into the stew pot was a choice the Black cook controlled. Yes, there were rations, but it was the cook who decided, not the enslaver, whether to add rabbit or venison or whatever else the community could produce. It was the cook who decided how it would be seasoned, not the slaveholder. And Crystal has talked about this in some interviews that she's in, and that underneath and within the institutional oppression of slavery, that and we saw this with Patsy talking to her husband William in the ghostly imagining that Crystal had of them at the end of slavery or the beginning of manumission, that Patsy had found a kind of freedom. Well, she was a freed person, but she had found it even within the confines of slavery. And Crystal's talking about how these choices around food, cooking a one-pot meal, could be a form of having some sort of sovereignty over yourself, even within this horrific structure of oppression. So I think that's a beautiful and hopeful concept that Crystal has put forward for us. And then she brings it forward to her grandmother. She set the pot on to cook. There was always relief in her face once the lid was on the pot, as if she had suddenly stopped time, freed herself for a few minutes. She could sit quietly and do other things in the kitchen that needed doing while she waited. I think in some way, one-pot meals were a time for my grandmother's healing and resistance too, a way to put some breath into her workday. And I love how Crystal has tied this toward this type of cooking, that you can kind of, the phrase set it and forget it. We say that sometimes right now. And when people ask me what I love to cook, I say I love to braise, because you kind of you get to be fussy with it in the beginning, but then you put it on low and slow. And I say it has a nice bubble bath for a while and gets happy. So she's talking about how people use this as a form of independence and of sovereignty and even a type of solidarity and community building. And also how this individual woman was able to carve out a little bit of freedom in her day, in this pressure of the next thing coming at her, and just to take a breath and maybe have a meditative moment because of the one pot meal. So I want to ask you, I love a one pot or one pan meal. What is your favorite kind? Is it a stock or soup pot kind of thing where you throw everything in on top of the stove? Is it a sheet pan? I'm loving the new sheet pan meals, I'll be honest. A roasting pan or Dutch oven that you put in and you like do a low, slow roast or a low, slow braise. A slow cooker where you just throw everything in, turn it on, go to work, come home, it's ready. Or something else, you know. I know some people consider their Instapots or their air fryers as kind of a one pot, one pan meal. If that's you, I put that other category in for that. And we've got slow cookers right now, heading everything up. Instant pot chicken soup. Crock pot pulled, yes, that's the easiest way to do pulled pork. And if you put one of those little liners in, then it's even easier to clean up from, right? Vegetable soup, slow cooker, yeah. Crock pot, chili, roast, and barbecue. Air fryer is my new way to go. Yeah, because I hate frying. I hate the mess. I hate the smell. So air fryer has been I'm not a big, like, small appliance person, but I have loved my air fryer. Crockpot Senate bean soup. Fayette County, you might have to share that with me. Last NEP calendar, which of course it won't be printed, but it's available digitally for 2026. I did the crockpot white bean chili, the white bean chicken chili, because that is super easy and it's delicious. So yeah, we've got, I think slow cooker is the obvious winner here. What Crystal has to say about this thing called grief and loss and the painful memories sometimes. On page 179, she says, sometimes grief comes without warning when I'm cooking. Even sunlight reflecting off my kitchen floor at a particular angle will make me cry. I used to be startled by these moments and attempt to gather myself to control them. Sometimes I'd stop cooking altogether and go do something else. Now, after all these years, I allow grief to come, to take over. I sob freely. My dear friend and scholar Bell Hooks, also a Kentucky writer, says in her book, All About Love, to be loving is to be open to grief, to be touched by sorrow, even sorrow that is unending. Both my sorrow and love have no end in the kitchen. It's almost like a recipe, right? We all do carry sorrow and love and joy and discomfort and conflict, and we carry it with us. And sometimes the kitchen is the best place to get that out. As sorrow and love have no end in life, not just in the kitchen, but she loves Crystal's emotional writings on her kitchen ghosts. The people who bought my grandparents' farm have just kind of let it fall in on itself. And so anytime, I don't go by there very often. So, but anytime I visit a farmer that's just across the road, and the Hills of Kindness farm. And it's very sad for me because I look over and that house used to be pristine. The yard, the farm, the house, every part of it used to be absolutely spotless and well cared for. And all I can think is there was so much love in that house. And it does make me sorrowful. Like I have a little emotional fallout for a couple of days after that. So, and a lot of it was related to food. Our grandmother showed us love with all the food that she prepared. On page 182, Crystal says, most always it's the kitchen that opens me up this way and spills me out into the past, dragging me to the bottom of a deep well of grief, and then depositing me back onto the surface. It is the Black way and the Appalachian way to be surrounded by family and friends and to collectively heal. Since my grandmother's death, we've lost too many others, including my grandmother's sisters, several of her grandchildren, and children, including my mother. I certainly rely on communion, but when grief strikes while I'm cooking, it's first a woeful meditation and then a spiritual one. one I need to experience alone before I invite others. I stand in my kitchen, visit with Granny a spell, before I smile and say, supper's ready. Let's eat. So Glenda, yes, sorrow and love have no end. And there are different places that we tie to those memories, both sorrowful and joyful. And there are certain smells. I think smell really connects us with the past. Tastes really connect us with the past. I think that's why sometimes people do love Crystal's dressed eggs recipe so much, because they're like, oh my gosh, this is like my grandmother's. Or the ginger cake, or I mean, really, Crystal's recipes are an embodiment of what she's writing about here, because they're not zhuzhed up. And I appreciate that. So people think I don't, but I actually appreciate the simplicity and the straightforwardness of them, because that does tie us to where we came from. People didn't have time to be fancy, right? They had farms to worry about, and animals to feed, and maybe ice on the ponds to break, and getting children fed and getting crops in. And so you didn't have time to be really bougie about the food. You just had to get it on the table. And so I really appreciate that in such a way, her recipes reflect what she's writing about here. So Fayette County, your group is, you welcome everyone to join. People, please note in the chat for a memory meal in honor of a loved one, celebrating a recipe you can bring on November 23rd from 5:30 to 7:30 at Fayette County Extension Office. Yeah, if there's a link to the flyer, or if you can send us the flyer, we'd be happy to share that. Thank you, Fayette County. You're always doing such neat programming. Okay, so Crystal is tying all of these generations together, ancestors. She grew up at her grandparents, and then she's looking forward to her children in the future. And she talks a bit about what she wants to pass on and what she's proud that they're doing. So are there traditions that you keep? Whether they're traditions that have been passed on to you, or new traditions you have started yourself that you hope to pass on to the next generation. And I'd love for you to list those either in the chat or via Menti. What are those special connective communions, as Crystal called them, that you hope that future generations will continue to do? Family gatherings do seem to get harder. Making candy at Christmas time. I tell you, Pat, one thing that we have done is my cousin hosts our extended family gathering, and she just sets it every year. You know, it's going to be on the first Saturday of December, and whoever can come can come. And really, it's kind of amazing. Some years we all get to be there, and some years we don't, but we know it's always there if we can join. So I appreciate the fact that she does that for us, so that we have that space. Holding hands around the table in prayer before the meal begins. You want to make you and your husband's mother's recipe and eat out of the bowls that belong to them. Church get-togethers. You celebrate Christmas on Christmas Eve. Yeah, sometimes trying to get families together, you have to do that. Fourth generation of pumpkin rolls. Man, I love a pumpkin roll. Oh, I love that. Homemade pizza and small bottles of Coke on Christmas Eve. That I tell you, that gives a memory to me when I was doing study abroad in Spain. That was our Friday night meal with my senora, and she was such a bright light of a woman, but she went out every Friday night, just like we college kids did. And I love that about her. So we had pizza on Friday nights, and so that's not a family memory, but it is a very sweet memory. So thank you for sharing it. Keeping the family gatherings. Country ham and biscuits for Christmas Eve breakfast. Yes. First tomatoes of the year, and the first, yeah, I can smell cucumber and onions. Yeah, those first ones that come out of the garden. Thursday night family dinners, gathering for Sunday dinner after church, family and friends, and a shared meal, and 4 generations. We've got lots of multi-generational meals. Yes. Using serving pieces and talking about, and not afraid of breaking them, right? I forget who the author is, but they're like, don't save the good stuff, right? Use it now. Make those memories now. Doing puzzles on Thanksgiving, and pumpkin and pecan pie. Yes, pecan pie, always dessert. Oh, that's a good one. Still make every item that your aunt used to serve for Easter brunch. Oh, that's good. At least you're not doing, everyone volunteers to bring some, so at least you're not doing it yourself. Oh, now I've got some more. Okay. Christmas Eve finger foods before going to church at 11 p.m. for candlelight service. Yes. Yes, such special traditions. Christmas Eve lasagna. Yeah, it's so nice to have those sort of low-hanging fruit kind of meals when you've worked to prepare like lots and lots and lots. So yeah, pizza, lasagna, finger foods. Yeah. Use your grandmother's china for the homemaker annual meeting. Oh my. Okay. Well, you're using it, aren't you? Like I just said. All right. Wow. That's special. Christmas ornaments handmade for, yes, love that. And then every year when you get them out and you hang them on a tree, you can tell the stories. I love like a little sort of tangible thing that can help you tell those stories. Christmas scavenger hunt for the gifts. I bet that could get kind of wild. And jam cake at Christmas. That's wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing all of those memories. We are just about out of time. And next week, it's our last one, I'm afraid to say, but we're going to talk about celebrations like these. So this is a wonder, you all segued in for me, even without me asking you to. So we're going to do all the celebrations next week. Birthdays must be celebrated. Merry Christmas, Christine. And giving thanks past, present, and future. So I really appreciate you joining today. Again, we have another big audience, and I know you're busy people and you have more to do with your time. So I appreciate you joining in.
And thank you, Chef T, for your fabulous presentation, as you always do.
No, it's my pleasure.
Thanks everyone for joining us. It's always great to have such a fun, large crowd. You all are great participants, as always.